Okay, I have two topics of great interest to me today. The first is Slavoj Zizek's reactions to his debate with Jordan Peterson and what he believes is the fundamental difference between their highest priority viewpoints, or in the largest scale of their thought. Though they agreed on so many points, what is kind of the fundamental difference from Zizek's perspective? And then also, I want to think about Zizek's definition of philosophy and how we might think about pushing that further, not within the realm of academic philosophy, but in the world and in our thought, in public thought, say. Okay, so firstly, Zizek, and I'll link the interview down below, an interview with a Chinese media company, the name of which I can't recall at this moment. Zizek frames it this way. His fundamental, though he agreed with Jordan Peterson on many points, and they do, and it's fascinating, and that's why I think so many people wanted. I don't think the more serious of us didn't want to see Zizek and Peterson because of this old, tired left versus right debate, but rather we wanted to see them interact and engage on ideas about ideology and maybe how to fix the world, and this is kind of from different disciplines. And of course, Peterson being a clinical psychologist and peer-reviewed scholar in psychology, and Zizek drawing from psychoanalysis. It's like there's lots of crossover there. But I don't want to talk about my personal reactions to the debate necessarily, as much as how did Zizek perceive his fundamental difference with Peterson being in the context of that debate, and he frames it as such. Zizek says in this interview with the Chinese media company that while Dr. Peterson believes that we can save the world by starting at the level of the individual, for Zizek it seems that the world might be in such disorder such that we are unable to set our house in order. Or rather, while Peterson's view is set your house in order first and then change the world, for Zizek it may be that some of these problems are too catastrophic such that we might have to really band together and do something collectively to, say, prevent global warming, so on, while Peterson believes that capitalism will just kind of work itself out and fix these problems, global catastrophes, economic catastrophes, war, everything that threatens the future of humanity, for Peterson can be solved within the realm of capitalism. So for Zizek, that was his reaction after the debate occurred, what he believed or at least in this interview, what he claims he thought the principal differences were between his ideas and Jordan Peterson's ideas in this debate. So I think that's useful. That's useful to think about. It's like, do we start with ourselves, and then this is the Peterson idea, start with yourself, set your house in order, clean your room, fix your family life, your social relationships, your career, and then allow your kind of influence to expand out into the community and fix the world that way by taking on individual responsibility. Or for Zizek, we may have to do something collectively together because of the scale of some of these enormous problems. So that's really interesting. This is not an idea that's unique to Zizek, but this is not an idea unique to Zizek, but he puts it quite succinctly and nicely. Essentially that the object of philosophy, or the goal of philosophy, I think he uses the word role. The role of philosophy is to ask questions. And that this is sort of a humble discipline. That the role of philosophy is to reveal to the world even what the right questions are to ask, or to re-ask questions in the way that the world has not asked before to better understand the issues that we face. And we can think certainly, like, this is true of Nietzsche, who reframed questions about morality and God, and this is true of the phenomenologists who reframe questions about the body's subjective position in reality. It's true about Heidegger and Wittgenstein and the way that they kind of reframed questions about being and language and reality. So I really like this kind of working definition of philosophy that Zizek uses. But here's where I'd like to kind of crack this open a little bit. It's like, why stop there? Really. We need great minds working on the world's greatest problems, and not just from a technical, scientific standpoint, despite all the necessity is there. It's like we need to think of new solutions to the extraordinary problems that we face that work across disciplines and that bring together the sort of best kinds of ideas. I talk about this in another video about some of my inklings toward, say, a field of universalism, or identifying what shared characteristics we have so that we can build a better kind of world. And not foolishly like utopia, but just create conditions in which humans can live better. Because I believe we have to admit that the world that we've created, the social structures that we have and the career structures and the economic structures seem to mostly be just kind of arbitrary creations haphazardly thrown together throughout the epochs. We didn't quite design it and engineer it in any particular way, but rather these structures kind of emerged, and that's perhaps why it's so damn messy too, and so interesting. Perhaps that's why it's so messy too, but also so interesting. So from Zizek's definition of philosophy, I want to push that forward and say, okay, well, what is that kind of field? What is that scope that will allow us to not just ask questions, but to actually solve these questions? And where does that fall under? And really, how are we going to do this, right? Or will we wait until it's too late and catastrophe is at our doorsteps again? Something worse than 2008 or the next, some next global crisis, superbugs, or it's probably not that far away. I'm not a doomsday kind of guy, but so really, that's an open question. How can we sort of push beyond philosophy? Not necessarily beyond philosophy, but perhaps either how could we push philosophy where do we go from Zizek's framing of philosophy? Where do we go to help ourselves? And what will be the framework for the ideas or the discipline or the systems under which new answers can emerge? I don't know what that is. Is it a new economic system? Is it some kind of elitist think tank? Is it, already going to happen under capitalism? Those are the big questions for me. How can we create better conditions for humanity? I'm not talking about, reducing the amount of suffering for the most amount of people from some kind of like empirical, quantitative perspective, but open up new fields of exploration and create a better world than yet we have known. All right, just some musings on a rainy day in the Midwest. Hopefully this is interesting for you if you've been following any of the Zizek-Peterson debate unfolding, or if you're interested in, say, applications of philosophy. Leave me a comment, subscribe if you enjoy the things I'm talking about, and take care of yourselves out there, okay?